mysterious realities. Case File 1. The case of child killer Mary Bell. Born 26 May 1957, Mary Flora Bell was the only child of a young mother, Betty. Being only 17 years old and not at all maternal, it is believed her first words to doctors when she was handed her baby was, "Get that thing away from me." Mary's father was never known, but her mother had a relationship with a local man called Billy. It was reported that he was an unsavory character, an alcoholic and well known to the police. Mary's mother took work as a prostitute and her and Billy would often take off for weeks at a time, leaving Mary alone to look after herself. This childhood was, unfortunately, very similar for many children on the Scotswood estate. The area in the West End of Newcastle, England where Mary grew up, was notoriously harsh and just surviving day to day was hard. Many families struggled to earn money and feed their children. During the 1960s, Scotswood had not changed since the Second World War. Many of the houses and buildings were left abandoned and in varied stages of decay. It was commonplace for children to be left to play outside until all hours, unsupervised. It was not unheard of for children as young as 3 years old to be found playing in the streets until late into the night. These abandoned buildings would be left for years and children would often explore them. The street that Mary lived on was particularly bad. Most houses were reported to have had women working as prostitutes with husbands being in the pubs until closing time. Many people in Scotswood struggled financially with very little furniture or personal items in their houses. People would keep coal in their kitchen instead of outside in the bunkers, for fear of it being stolen. Clothes would also be dried indoors in case they were stolen too. It is believed that Betty never wanted to be a mother. Not only did she ask doctors to take away her baby, she would regularly give Mary sleeping tablets. It is also alleged that she once tried to throw her out of a window, then claimed it to be an accident. On the 25th of May 1968, Mary Bell, then aged only 10 years, strangled Martin Brown, aged 4 in an abandoned house on the Scotswood estate in Newcastle upon Tyne, located in the northeast of England. Leaving the scene, she soon returned with her friend Norma Bell, who was no relation to Mary, only to discover 2 local boys had started to play in the house and had discovered the body of little Martin. With no obvious signs of violence, police drew their attention to the empty bottle of pills that were found near Martin's body. They initially reported the death as accidental due to Martin having taken the painkillers. Martin's mother would later report that Mary and Norma had turned up to the Brown household, where Mary asked if she could see Martin. Mrs. Brown explained that Martin was dead, expressing to Mary that she already knew this. Mary's response would haunt Mrs. Brown for the rest of her life. Mary responded that she knew he was dead but wanted to see Martin in his coffin. It was also later reported that following the death of Martin, Mary produced a series of drawings, one of which showed the scene of Martin's death, including the empty pills bottle that the police had not made public at the time. Unfortunately, these pictures were missed by teachers at the time. Mary had also started to tell friends that she had killed Martin. However, due to all her previous lies, no one believed her. Mary, it was reported, had attempted to strangle other young boys. She would tell them they had a sore throat and that she would make it better before placing her small delicate hands on their neck. On the 31st of July 1968, just 2 months after the murder of Martin, Mary, this time with her friend Norma Bell, strangled Brian Howe, aged just 3. This time, however, Mary went a step further and mutilated the body of Brian with a pair of scissors, stabbing and cutting his thighs and penis. Later, when Brian's sister was looking for him, Mary and Norma helped in the search for the missing boy. Mary pointed out a pile of concrete blocks, to which Norma said Brian would not have gone there. Unfortunately, Brian's sister believed the statement and, not knowing her baby brother did in fact lay under the blocks, moved on to search another location. The residents of the Scotswood estate were sent into a panic when Brian's body was found. There had been 2 young boys killed in a short period of time. The police started interviewing local children, hoping that one of them may have some information as to who may have carried out the murders. However, dreadful news was soon to come following the autopsy of Brian. The coroner's report stated that new marks had appeared on Brian's chest as his body had begun to cool down. It was stated that someone had used a razor blade to mark the letter M onto his torso. More worryingly, is that it also reported that very little force was used during the attack and that this suggested the killer could be a child. When questioned by police, both Mary and Norma displayed odd behaviors. Norma acted excitedly whilst Mary was evasive. Even more so when the police stated she had been seen with Brian on the day he died. It was even reported that on the day of Brian's funeral, Mary was seen watching from a distance and was observed laughing when Brian's coffin came into view. During her second police interview, Mary suspected the police might be aware that she was responsible for the 2 deaths. In an attempt to throw the police off her trail, Mary reported seeing an 8-year-old boy hitting Brian and that the boy had been carrying a pair of scissors. However, similarly to the empty bottle of pills, the police had not released the mutilation of Brian with a pair of scissors. The police, knowing that only the killer knew these details, closed in on Mary and Norma. Norma started to fully cooperate with police implicating Mary in the murders. Mary, however, whilst admitting she was present during Brian's murder, stated that it had been Norma who killed Brian. Both were charged and both would stand trial. During the trial, prosecutors argued that Mary's reason for killing the 2 boys was solely for pleasure and the excitement of killing. It didn't take long for the jury to agree and found Mary Bell guilty of manslaughter. This was due to psychiatrists convincing the jury that Mary showed classic signs of psychopathy, and therefore, could not be held fully responsible for her actions. The jury also ruled that Norma Bell was to be acquitted as they found her to be an unwilling accomplice under the influence of Mary. In sentencing, the judge, Mr. Justice Cusack, noted that Mary was dangerous and was a clear and serious threat to other children. Mary was awarded an imprisonment to be at Her Majesty's pleasure, whilst is the British ruling for an indeterminate sentence until the government ruled that it was appropriate to release Mary and that she was no longer a risk to others. Mary was released in 1980, she was given a new name and went on to have her own family, and in 2018 was believed to still be alive, having become a grandmother at the age of 51. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed our presentation on the case of Mary Bell. It would be great if you could give us a like, hit the bell to subscribe and spread the word. Remember, all realities are possible, but ours is mysterious realities.